Well, hello again. I hope that you all enjoyed last week's module where we learned how to build Qualtrics surveys and kind of use AI as an assistant as we're building surveys. Once again, that's a very, very valuable skill that I believe will be a useful skill for some time to come. Now, this week is going to be our first week where we're really stepping into analyzing data. Marketing analytics, that's the main focus is once we have data, what do we do with it? Marketing research, which we also, UVU offers that class, which is a really solid class. It teaches you how to mostly obtain data while we focus on once we have that data, what do we do with it? And so to kick that off, what we're going to do is we're going to start with how to analyze and approach qualitative data. Now, qualitative data is a bit of a different animal. Typically, when we think of analytics or statistics, we're thinking like numbers, okay? So this is the number of times somebody purchased a product or how much they spent on your website, how many views the last social media post obtained. If we're talking surveys, you'd have a scaled question, such as how likely are you to purchase our product? Or if we're looking at the last survey we worked on, Blitz Blend, you have ranking, that would be quantitative. Willingness to pay would be quantitative. Quantitative is all about numbers, counting, averaging, pulling up dashboards and keeping track of things. Qualitative, though, is a bit harder to grasp for a lot of people. It can deal a whole lot more with thoughts and impressions. And as we talked about in the example of our last survey, these are examples of qualitative data where a customer is responding in text or voice and sharing their feelings toward whatever question you're asking. A lot of times when we're asking a qualitative question like what's your usual protein shake routine, or what's your overall thoughts regarding a concept or product, and we're just letting people kind of share those opinions, it's more exploratory. When we're asking qualitative questions like this, typically it's because we don't yet know the average type of responses people are going to give. We're exploring a problem, we're exploring solutions, and then from that qualitative data, we're able to then fine tune it and build more quantitative structures around it. But you could obtain this data through survey like this. You could also conduct interviews, whether those interviews are one-on-one or you're doing a focus group. Also in social media marketing, there's tons of qualitative data that we have available that we don't often use. So for instance, if you do a post and then there's all kinds of comments, people leave comments on those posts. Of course, you're going to want to respond to those posts in some way or another, but what insight could we gather from those comments? And how could we take that insight to improve our future posts? So today we're going to approach that. I'm actually going to use that example I just gave with social media comments. This week we're going to do things a little bit different. Sometimes typically the class examples might be something that we would create in Qualtrics or analyze in Qualtrics, and then we would go to the AI. But I really wanted to actually start with AI this week. So let's start with the following example. So this data should be available for you to download in Canvas. It's just a CSV file. We're going to be using CSV files in the future. Most of you should be familiar with Excel, like an Excel file. Like I think we're all familiar with that. What a CSV is it's pretty much an Excel file, but it's a lighter Excel file. It doesn't take up so much memory space. If I create equations in a CSV file and I save it, those equations will be gone, and it would only be the text from those equations that would be left. So you can't save equations or any of the fancy stuff. It's just a very, very simple version of what we may think of with an Excel file. So in this case, we're to imagine that we're working for an apparel company. We've just launched a post with a model wearing a dress that we're trying to promote, and these are the comments that people left. So we have 30 comments here. And so how do we approach this? Okay, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to try using AI to analyze this. That might be a quick, easy way to get an idea of what's going on here. So I'm going to give the following prompts to each AI platform. We have ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini. So the prompt is: imagine you are a marketing analyst for an apparel company and receive the following comments in the last post. Analyze these comments and give recommendations for future posts and comments. So I'm going to paste this into each one. And now I'm going to go to our data. I'm going to start with the top. I'm going to press Shift and click on the bottom and comment and copy. And now I'm just going to paste these comments here. GPT, Grok. Gemini is weird, by the way. If you paste an Excel file, it'll only do it as a screenshot, which you see like GPT is doing as well. So if I paste this in Gemini, so it does a screenshot, and it really doesn't like screenshots. In this case, it took it. In the past, it hasn't. If you're having an issue like that, before you paste, just right-click and select Paste and Match Style, and it'll paste as text and not a screenshot. Okay, but let's look at these results. So GPT, model and representation. These are just some basic things that it's seeing. But its number one recommendation is to showcase a wider range of models, diverse body types, ethnicities, and styling approaches, styling and outfit choice, relatability and accessibility. They don't feel like they could pull that off. So include model stats. Some people are wondering, like, oh, what's height of this model, etc. So include some of that. Purchase intent and product appeal. So a lot of people really wanted to purchase it. Highlight consumer reviews. Keep experimenting with dynamic natural poses rather than only high fashion. So number one, model variety, relatable styling, practical information, lifestyle context, engagement, engage customers. Of course, we're going to want to engage them. Now let's pop over here to Grok. So here it's kind of categorizing everything. So we have the model's appearance. There's some positive, neutral, negative comments, outfit design, relatability and diversity, styling and overall vibe. And so we get to the recommendations based off of those. And number one's capitalize on the model's popularity. Continue featuring this model as she drives the majority of positive feedback. Number two, enhance diversity and relatability. Introduce a wider range of models in terms of body types, ethnicity, age, and to address calls for inclusivity. Refine outfit selection and styling. Boost engagement and conversions. Content format suggestions. So like use carousel posts. And so these are just kind of ideas that I don't know that one's necessarily from the data, but just a fun idea to use, I guess. Gemini, it went through and gives an overall idea. Recommendations it gives is highlight the model's energy, kind of similar to Grok's number one. Feature diverse models, respond to feedback about diversity by featuring models of various body types, ethnicities. Okay, so all three are kind of in unison there. Create diverse styling, show outfit details, and engage with the community. So what I'd like to do for this example is I want to highlight ChatGPT. Their number one was model variety. This was the number two for Grok, and number two for Gemini. So as an analyst looking at this feedback, I would ask myself the following questions. One, is this feedback, is it something that we as a company are trying to prioritize in general? Is it something that matches our motivation and our culture and our values? And if it is, this is probably really good feedback to take. Let's let's think about that in our future posts. So that's one. So sometimes you just got to go with what your soul really wants. So you should always take that into account. But fundamentally, as an analyst, I would also ask, okay, so this recommendation is number one in GPT, number two in Grok and Gemini. So I, as an analyst, I would think, okay, well, this must be a fairly frequent comment that we're seeing. That's just what I would assume if I wasn't doing my homework, and so I'd say, okay, let's start implementing this right away. But let's actually take a look at the data and see what we think. So I'm going to kind of scroll through these comments, and I'm going to put a 1 here if I see anything that has to do with diversity. So while she's stunning, I'm not sure if I like the print. She looks like a celebrity. Love the confidence she's radiating. I wish they showed more diverse model. Okay, there's a 1. I'd wear that dress in a heartbeat. The dress is okay. I don't feel like I could pull that off. That looks on fire. It feels a little more summer than spring. It's done up. The model slays every time. Cute outfit, but hard to imagine myself in it. She's gorgeous. That energy is everything. The model's poses are kind of awkward. She looks like she's walking a runway. Wish I looked like her, so graceful. Nice to see a model with a real smile for once. I don't love that neckline. Okay, the model's hair, how tall is she? Adorable dress, looks super comfy. She's giving main character energy. Whoever styled her deserves a raise. The color looks great on her. Not a fan of the shoes with that dress. Love the vibe, she's so photogenic. Just purchased that dress, can't wait for it to arrive. That dress would be perfect for a beach vacation. Looks cute, but not very practical for everyday wear. Okay, so going through this, I see one comment that really references diversity. So the question is, if there was one comment, not as I would have anticipated, given it was such a high priority for each AI model. So the question is, if it was just one comment, why is it such a high priority for each AI model? So let's try to break this down and see what's going on in the minds of AI. So I'm going to ask, what percentage of comments are related with model diversity? Paste these in each one. Okay, GPT, looking through the comments, only one comment directly mentions model diversity. Grok says 13% are related to model diversity. These comments specifically address the desire for diverse models or concerns about relatability. Okay, so I wish I showed, so even things like she looks too done up, not relatable, they're saying that that's diversity. I don't know that I would like exactly ping that there. Maybe, that's kind of gray area. And Gemini, so it says 3.33% deal with that. So I'm going to ask Grok to be a little bit more specific. I'm wondering what percentage of comments refer to the company needing more diverse models. Specifically, I'm going to highlight in terms of body types, ethnicities, age, to address calls for exclusivity. Okay, so it says only one comment does. All right, so just a little reflective moment. Let's remove ourselves from the moral and political opinions. There's a lot of arguments we could have both ways just there, okay? But let's just say that we took this data, we loaded it into an AI platform, plopped it out, and presented it to our managers or board members or whoever it is, and we say the number one thing we need to do is implement more diversity among our models. And then let's say that somebody, whether it's our manager or somebody important, is maybe a little bit more analytically minded, and they say, oh, that's a very interesting finding. How many people complained about the lack of diversity in our models? And you don't know the number. And as you quickly fumble, maybe quickly like text GPT or whatever AI platform, you say, hey, how many actually commented on this? And it's 1. And you've based your entire presentation on this recommendation with AI. You're going to be in trouble because you relied so heavily on the recommendation of AI and didn't put any work into it yourself. Now, you may be in a company that says, oh, that one comment for this particular issue is very, very valuable, and that's great, but you need to know that ahead of time. You need to know enough about your data and your company to know, hey, there was just one comment, but this is right in line with our company values. That's why I put it right up toward the top, right? You don't want to get caught in a situation where you don't actually know what you're talking about. And so we will be talking about how to avoid situations like that and how to get to know your data a little bit more. But first, let's ask AI what reasoning it used behind its recommendations. So if only one comment referred to the need for more diverse models, why was it so high on your list of recommendations? That's a sharp observation. Here's why it ended up being so high in recommendations. Weight of comment versus frequency. Some comments are preferences. Others are structural issues. Even if mentioned once, structural issues can signal bigger systematic blind spots in brand perceptions. Interesting. Okay, so it's saying it reflects a broader critical trend in apparel industry and social media marketing. Okay, so Grok is saying that that this is a big marketing trend going on to focus on diversity. There may be some positive aspects of it. So even though there's one comment, it links to an important issue being discussed. So it kind of upped the priority of that one comment. And Gemini kind of gives the same reasoning there. Okay, so you could say that makes sense. But what I'm trying to get at here is you have to be careful and mindful when watching AI. So it's linking to social norms, and based off of those social norms, it's looking at your data and highlighting what actions you should take. Now, you may be all for that or not, but initially, it's going to be really important that you understand what the data really is and that you're taking action based off of the data. And yeah, in this case, if there's some comments that even if it doesn't show up very much, but it's something that fits social norms and it's something that is really important to you, then yeah, hop on that. That's good insight. But perhaps your American Eagle in this latest controversial ad campaign that they launched, and you're going to go kind of the whole opposite direction. But it's all dependent on the company and their culture and what their motivations are. If you want to base your decisions just strictly on the data, you need to be more familiar with what your data actually contains before just blindly going with whatever AI suggests. Okay, so given that example, definitely not trying to get political or anything, just kind of highlighting that the AI might prioritize certain things based off of social trends or the latest do's and don'ts. But let's go through this data first. But for now, let's set aside company culture and motivations and trends per se. Let's just look at the data and see what other insights we can pull from this. So we've actually kind of already started this when I went through each comment to look to whether they reference diversity or not. I put a 1 for each one that did. Turned out there was just one, but that type of process is how we'd actually go through this. So what we did was we looked for the topic diversity. I'm just going to put that as on the top here, and we gave everyone a 1 if that was something mentioned. I'm going to go to this next comment here. Wow, she's stunning. This model totally sells the vibe. Let's create another topic here. So I could say like, this is like a reference to the model and it's positive. I'm going to give a 1 there. You could go through if you want some of the more meaty data. You could, make another comment on the vibe. Model vibe positive. So we have like a general positive and like a vibe positive. And then we can go down to this next comment. Not sure if I like the print. It's kind of out of dated. Okay, so there's no mention of model here. I'm just going to put product negative and give them a 1. I could get more detailed and talk about the print. I've already gone kind of through the data and I know nobody else mentions the print, right? But that might be a comment that comes up frequently. And if it's something that comes up frequently, definitely create a new topic and count that. If a lot of people are talking about the print, let's see if we can do something about that, especially if they're negative. Okay, so she looks like a celebrity. What's her name? So that's a model positive. Love the confidence she's radiating. That's a 1 there. We already talked about the diverse model comment. I'd wear that in a heartbeat. So that's product positive. There's also like a purchase intent. So I'll do that one. Okay, so I've kind of reordered some of these columns. What I would like you to do is go through the rest of these. There's only 30, and code the rest. You could add whatever columns you want, but I'd like you to at least do a model positive, a model neutral, a model negative, and then a product positive, neutral, and negative. So we've had some good examples on positive and negatives. This one here, this next one I think is a good neutral. The dress was okay. Okay, that might be a product neutral. But I'm mostly drawn to her smile. So we have a model positive. Some of them might be a little more tricky, like this next one. I don't feel like I could pull that off like she does. That, I don't feel like I could pull that off. So there's like a mention of the product. It's, I don't know, it's kind of neutral. It's honestly probably a positive for both the product and the model, but a negative on self-esteem, I guess, probably there. So you can see, like, when you're doing qualitative analysis, like, it isn't going to be a completely unbiased analysis. We're going to kind of have to say, okay, this one's kind of in the gray area. Some people are going to think it sides with a product neutral. Some people think a product positive. But just do the best that you can. And it's a good process to go through. So one thing you can do that'll help is I'm going to come here to the top corner, the comment text. Row 31 is my last. I'm going to give it like a few columns, like just in case I want to add some. I'm going to highlight all of this, just hold shift and click. And I'm going to insert a table and say it has headers. So that'll help me keep track of the rows. I can also select all the column headings and say freeze panes. Say I freeze top row. And now as I scroll down, those topics kind of stay there for me to see, and that comes in handy quite a bit. Now once you're done, you can go to the bottom, and I just want to sum these up, right? So maybe so I'm gonna do the little equal sign and say sum, open parentheses, and I can start on the bottom row, scroll up to the top, highlight all of those, and then close my parenthesis and press enter, and it'll sum up all comments for that topic. I can even click here and slide this over, and it'll copy that same formula to the other topics all the way to product negative. So let's say I did that, and if I want a percentage, there's 30 comments here, so I can say this next one, it equals this cell divided by 30. So that's like 3%. I could right click and go to format cells and say that this is a percentage, and then that'll turn it to a percentage. So that's how you would sum up the topics for each comment and see what the percentage of time that topic came up. I could also say that positive model comment was mentioned 3 times, and neutral was 2 times, and negative was 4 times. Obviously, I just made those up. But say I want to see, like, okay, how often was the model mentioned? I could say in another cell that this equals the sum of all the model comments and close it. And I get a 9 there. Again, if I want to see the percentage, I could just copy this and paste it down below, and it's going to give me the percentage of whatever's above it. So that's 30% of the comments dealt with the model, whether it was positive, neutral, or negative. So try to do that. Sum up the positive, neutral, and negative mentions of the model and the product, and see what percentage of the comments dealt with the model in general, and what percentage of the comments dealt with the product in general. Once you're done with that, just save your data set after you've edited it, and then upload it below. Okay, so yours may differ a little bit than mine. That's fine. Like we said, this isn't like an unbiased approach, and some comments could go either way. But just doing a little tally on my own, 50% of the comments were positive toward the model. I didn't really see neutral. There could have been some. There were some 10% were negative toward the model. The product, 26% were positive. There were some neutral and some negative ones as well. And then when we kind of tally those all together, 60% of the comments dealt with the model in general, and then 14% dealt with the product in general, whether those were positive, negative, or neutral. So let's see what AI has to say about that and what recommendations it would give. So I asked what percentage of the comments referred to the model and what percentage referred to the product. GPT says about 55% deal with the model, 42% the product. Grok says 60% the model, 40% product. And Gemini says 56% model and 60% product. So you can see these vary quite a bit as well. Grok is pretty close to mine. So they're roughly around the same. This is a really high product count. So I'm going to tell it what I've got. I've got 60% model and 47% product. So I'm just going to say I counted 60% model and 47% product. What recommendations could be given based on that finding? So GPT is saying shift focus to the product. If people are talking more about the model than the product, maybe try to guide the conversation, address the fit and practical concerns, keep the energy, redirect the spotlight, leverage the model's appeal to highlight the product. There's some things you could potentially do there. Address the product critiques. So these give some fairly good recommendations. Leverage the model's main character energy. I don't think the main character energy is a good thing. That's just, am I right? I don't think that's a good thing if you say you have main character energy. Oh. So this is used behind the scene content. That's interesting because that's kind of I don't know. People would kind of talk more about the model than the product. Maybe it's kind of playing to that. Yeah, Gemini is actually, now that I look at it, very different than these others. Gemini is saying lean into it, make the product the sideline character, bring more attention to the model almost. What's fascinating, there was some research published several years ago, and they did a study where they had clothing ads, and in some of them they cropped the head off of the models, and they built an experiment where half of the people saw the ads with the heads cropped off, and the other half of the people saw the ads with the heads included. And they saw that, for the most part, when the head was included in the ad, there were like more positive intentions to purchase the product, except in one instance, and that was for female customers and female models. So if the customer and the model were both females, including a head on the model decreased purchase intentions for the product. Everybody else was positive. It was females and male models. It was positive with the heads. Males, it didn't matter whether the model was male or female. Having a head in there increased purchase intentions, but just for the female customers and female models, having a head was kind of negative. So if we were this apparel company, we could take that into account. I think Walmart, I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but Walmart at one time, I don't know if it was based off of this research, but a lot of their clothing, they would crop off the models' heads. You get some companies doing that, but that's probably going to be based on your company and your clothing and your brand. So that would be, to me, like worth creating a study to see if that same effect applied to you. One other thing we can do that AI can be pretty good at is running a sentiment analysis. So a sentiment analysis, what it does is it goes through and it gives each comment a score on how positive or negative the words used are. So if somebody is very negative in their comment, they're going to have a negative score. If they're very positive in their comment, it's going to have a positive one. And it kind of tallies all of these up by topic and gives you a report on how positive or negative different aspects are within your data. So I'm going to ask run a sentiment analysis on the comments and report your findings. Do that here and here. So GPT gave a just overall 61% positive, 16% neutral, and 23% negative. I'm going to say report the sentiment for the model and the product separately. Okay, Gemini came up similar, 67, 23 negative. Yeah, they're very similar. Again, there's going to be little differences here, and it gave it in general as well. So I'm going to ask it to report the sentiment for the model and the product separately. And this grok is getting roughly the same type of percentages. I'm going to ask it to do the same thing. Okay, GPT, we have 65% positive for the model, 62% positive for the product, 3 negative, and 15% negative. It says like the model drives strong positive sentiment, but negative comments hit deeper brand issues, diversity, and relatability. For Gemini, 88% positive for the model, 12% negative, 61 positive for the product, 39% negative. The model's a massive success. The product, however, has more mixed reviews. Data confirms that the emotion, connection, and positive vibe of the posts are primarily driven by the model. The recommendation should therefore focus on leveraging the model's high favorability rating and mitigating the negative product sentiment. So again, Gemini, it seems to be like, let's go with the positive views of this model, whereas GPT is saying, yeah, the model's really positive, but there are some comments that are negative, so let's get some diversity in there. And then grok, 77% positive, negative 11% for the model. For the product, we have 50% positive, 14% negative. The model enjoys strong positive. This reinforces the model's role as a key engagement driver, though inclusivity concerns suggest a need for broader representation. The product has more balanced. So they're saying the model can enhance the product perceptions, but negative product feedback suggests design flaws may limit the effect. So recommendation, continue leveraging the model's charisma, but address negative sentiment by introducing diverse models to improve inclusivity and relatability, potentially reducing the 11% negative feedback. So yeah, there's kind of a debate between Gemini and these two as to what to do here. This is a really positive model. There's some concerns with diversity. What do we do? And Gemini seems to be taking the American Eagle approach here. When it comes down to it, though, I would be very wary and tread carefully, especially with a topic so political as this. You may have no issue at all going with grok and GPT's suggestions and getting more diverse models. On the flip side, you may have no issues at all sticking with that model and the model's popularity, and even honing in on that as Gemini suggests. But really, the wisest thing to do with this type of situation is to run some research. I would run some studies, maybe a couple of surveys using the techniques that we'll be covering in this class to get a sense as to how customers are going to react if you do start implementing a more diverse group of models. Again, in some cases, it could go really well, but it really is going to depend on your customers, the perception that they have of your company and its motivations and values. If they feel like your company and your brand's motivations and values don't really align with a strong push of diversity, there's a chance you could get in trouble. I mean, you could take like Budweiser and Jaguar, for example, where the values of their customer base didn't necessarily match with the values that the company was trying to go for. So if you're going to make a transition, it's so important to do some research beforehand so you know how your customers are going to react before you launch this huge change that potentially backfires. Then again, you may do the research and find out that your customers are great and are very much aligned with that mission and have no problem at all. But really, it comes down to the fact that you should very much conduct some strong research before making big changes like this. So anyway, that's a good little intro to how to deal with qualitative data. We'll also be looking how to deal with qualitative survey data in the next assignment, which will be a lot of fun.